Good evening and welcome to our Monday, May 26th meeting. We'll just get started here. Call to order, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the May 26, 2025 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. If you could all rise for the singing of the national anthem. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you, we will be deleting item number 8B, the action request to award RFP 2025-07 for the supply and delivery of a 1-ton gas truck. The reason being that the bidder who was recommended for the award in this report has since pulled their submission, and administration has yet to get in contact with the next bidder.
Thank you. Were there any items in the consent agenda that anyone want pulled? None noted. We can change that if something comes up. Okay. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes. Were there any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meeting be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, May 12th, 2025. All those in favor? Carried. We will now get into our presentations and delegations portion of our meeting. Request for mobile food vendor bylaw exemption, Tums Thai Cuisine. If you could please come up to the microphone. You press the gray button to turn it on, just speak into it. You're not just speaking to us, you're speaking to our audience on YouTube when we post it. Thank you very much, and go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gedmala Kananthai, and I'm hereby today on behalf of Tums Kitchen Thai Cuisine, a local area fine dining restaurant, eager to bring the vibrant flavors of Thailand to Lancaster. We are requesting an exemption to current mobile food vendor bylaw, which would enable us to operate a Thai food truck within 100 meters of an established restaurant McDonald's located at the corner of 2385 County Road, 2 Summertown, Ontario, and the service route Lancaster, Ontario. Our primary argument rests on the need of diverse food options to local residents, travelers, and summer campers. Tums Kitchen would provide residents, cottagers, and travelers passing through the culinary options and will cater to a wider range of palates and preferences. We believe that the presence of Tums Thai Kitchen would not necessarily detract from McDonald's business. Instead, it could potentially enhance the overall appeal of the areas as a food destination, attracting more people to the location and creating a more vibrant and dynamic environment. We are committed to operating responsibly and in compliance with all health and safety regulations. Our food truck is designed to be clean, efficient. We are also prepared to work with the council and any neighboring businesses to address any potential concerns regarding noise, traffic, or waste management. We are confident that allowing Tum's Thai Kitchen to operate near the established McDonald's will be a positive addition to Lancaster, providing greater food variety to residents, cottagers, and travelers alike, and further enhancing the appeal of this central location. Variety is the spice of life. And thank you for your time and your consideration of our request. And last but not least, we are ready to go to serve you Thai food as soon as we get approval from all of you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. And just for process, we will go back to our administration for a recommendation. So it would probably be 2 weeks. We don't normally approve things during the meeting, but that's the process. So I'd like to throw it to council if you have any questions as to their request. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the presentation. I don't have any particular questions for yourselves. I had a question for staff. I think if there's, just wondering if there's an intention from council, is there a way to maybe get them greenlit ahead of it coming back in another meeting and ahead of our first meeting in June, or are we hellbound to waiting for that final approval to let them open? If that should be the will of council.
Okay. Any thoughts from administration on that particular? Ms. Haley?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question, Councillor McDonnell. So as you're probably aware, administration cannot deviate from an approved bylaw. And interestingly enough, this is our second mobile food premise bylaw. The first one, we had a 300-meter restriction, and then it was reduced several years ago to 100 meters. So again, that was kind of to protect the residents, or excuse me, the businesses that pay taxes. So if council were willing to pass a resolution this evening without a staff report, that certainly can be done. I mean, the clerk would have to be agreeable to that, and then that would give us the direction to proceed with being able to issue that mobile food premise license. The license is comprised of certification from the health unit, as well as TSSA approval and an application fee, so that could take a little bit of time for them to produce. I'm assuming they're already licensed because they do have their mobile food premise at other events. But if that's something council wanted to approve this evening, we can work with it. I'm looking at the clerk to make sure she's in agreement with my comments, but that's my response. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Pursuant to our procedural bylaw, council can suspend the rules with the consent of a majority of council. So if the majority of council was in favor of foregoing our typical procedure of waiting or sending back to another meeting, you certainly could do that. My only word of caution would just be to ensure that the appropriate department is on board for that, and it sounds like Ms. Haley has no issue with that. My only concern would just be in case something were to come back from staff that was not given consideration this evening. However, if Ms. Haley, as the general manager for that department, is all right with that, then I would say procedurally it can be done.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I'm definitely in favor of allowing them to open there. I just went by the other day to see the trailer is there, the truck is there. So I have no problem. We should be able to be fairly nimble and not take 2 or 3 weeks to get something done that we all are likely going to decide here tonight that we want to do. So I have no problem making it happen tonight.
Councillor Bougie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in terms of the mobile food truck and having, of course, the safety approvals, and they have to get that in place if they don't already. What is the mobile trucking or mobile fee for this kind of operation to the township?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the application fee is $300 for an annual license.
Okay, thank you. That's all, and I am in favor of this as well.
Counselor Jaworski?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. I think it's a question for staff. In terms, and I did not see the trailer, although I've been down in that corner. So that's my first question, is where exactly is it being proposed to be put? On McIntosh's side? Okay. Okay, thank you. And my other question is, in terms of restrictions of the permit, it's an annual permit, but are there any restrictions in terms of hours of operations or seasons of operations?
Thank you for those questions. Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it's located in the Rob McIntosh parking lot. I did have a detailed conversation with the property owner, and they were anxious to have approval for this if it was possible. In terms of restrictions, I outline the requirements of the TSSA approval and the health unit approval, but we don't restrict any hours of operations, and we don't, basically, they can provide parking. There's available washrooms in nearby areas. They don't even have to have one on site. Then really, there's no other restrictions. And administration is working with Tombs Kitchen as well as the property owner, and we were supportive of it, which is why we encouraged them to come to council. I think they brought up some very good points this evening that it certainly will add to the restaurants in the area and not conflict. And maybe it will be well received to just have a different style of food to be able to be purchased. So we were supportive of them coming here this evening with the request. Thank you.
Thank you for that additional information and understanding where it's going and that they have the full support of that business to operate out of there. I'm in support of it.
Okay, it seems like there's support, certainly. A mover and a seconder to, I believe our clerk is writing a motion just quickly, but once we have that, a mover and a seconder to suspend, it will be Councillor McDonnell and Councillor Bougie then to suspend that portion of the procedural bylaw. We're just going to wait for the proper resolution.
Ms. Haley, do you know offhand which section of the mobile food premise bylaw they're requesting an exemption from?
I just have a selfish request. Occasionally, beaver tails take part in there. I hope that there will be room for them on occasion.
So maybe good because having Thai food and then have the dessert as beaver trails. I think that may be good combination.
Thank you for bearing with us as we find the appropriate numbering. As you know, government has to be fairly exact when we quote our own bylaws.
Madam Clerk, it is section 2.4 of the bylaw. Do you need the bylaw number? Okay.
Is that within 100 meters?
Yes.
Thank you.
I guess to kill some airtime, right now the Ottawa Charge are playing the Minnesota Frost at PWHL. I believe the score was 0-0 when I left, so Casey's an avid fan of the Charge, who beat out Montreal Victoire. Unfortunately for some in our family, they're Victoire fans, but it could be the giving of the Walter Cup, which is the Stanley Cup equivalent for the Female Hockey League. Other than that, does anybody have any community updates? Oh, no, got the thumbs up. No more killing time.
Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, I can read the resolution on behalf of you, or for you, on your behalf.
Yes, and it's moved by Councillor McDonnell and seconded by Councillor Bougie.
Perfect. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby suspend Section 15.6.5 of Procedural Bylaw 2024-70 for the purpose of approving the request of Tums Thai Kitchen for an exemption to Section 2.4 of the Mobile Food Premise Bylaw to operate within 100 meters of an eating establishment.
All those in favor? Carried. So with that, council has given approval. There will be some administrative process to go through, but that will be done, I believe, through Ms. Haley's, who you're already in contact with.
Okay.
But I guess we look forward to increasing the spice that is the variety of life, as you said.
Okay. Thank you so much, and we much appreciate that. And we make sure that we give the good Thai food for all of you around here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. So then we move to action request, Solid Waste Diversion Initiative, Clear Bag Program. This is Ms. McDonald. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-54 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry direct administration to option A, proceed with implementing a Clear Bag Program for curbside garbage collection with a soft launch date of January 1st, 2026 and a full launch date of April 6, 2026, and this is staff's recommendation. Or option B, revisit the viability of Clear Bag Program through the development of the Township's Solid Waste Management Master Plan. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to take 5 minutes to blow through the presentation that we provided at each public open house, just so that that information's on public record. It should go a little quicker than it did with all the questions that we received from the public. All the questions that we received from the public are included in your agenda package. So we had our summer students record them and we provided answers. They're posted on our website also. So they're out there for the public to see. So at our open houses, we talked about waste management, an overview, the Clear Bag Program overview, and then we had an open question and answer period. I know that members of council were in attendance, but just a quick refresher since it has been a month or 3 weeks since then. So in South Glengarry, we have 3 landfills. 2 of them are open. Beaverbrook, here I'll scroll down a little bit. There we go. Beaverbrook and North Lancaster are currently receiving waste. Summerstown has been closed since the 1980s. So it closed in the 1980s, but we're still monitoring the landfill. It costs the township anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a year for that monitoring, depending where we are in our monitoring cycle. Our landfills are, this is important information for why we can't just do whatever we want to do with our landfills. They are governed by a environmental compliance approval provided by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, or whatever that agency is called in the day. So at one point the MOE, but now the MECP. And it describes when we can receive waste, what types of waste we can receive, how we have to operate. They're fairly robust documents, and they're of course available for council anytime that you'd like to review our ECAs. Beaverbrook, we have open 8 months of the year, October to May. It had an original capacity of 300,000 meters cubed, and North Lancaster is open 4 months, June to September, and it had an original capacity of 242,000 meters cubed. So quite a bit of space when they were originally opened, and they are going on, at least 25, 30, 40 years now. When we talk about landfill expansions, one of the questions that came up at one of the meetings was, why can't we expand, or why can't we reopen Summerstown? As an example, North Dundas recently undertook an expansion project. It took them about a decade to get approvals in place from the MECP, and the cost for that expansion is $3 to $4 million. So, 10 years to get approval, and then however many years to make it happen at a pretty substantial cost. So, making more space in our landfills is not as easy as snapping our fingers, because we would like it to be. The capacity remaining is shown on this slide, and we've just extrapolated over time. So we have about 90,000 meters cubed at Beaverbrook and just over 30,000 at North Lancaster. And if we continue to fill our landfills at the rate of fill that we're observing right now, and we determine that rate of fill based on topographic studies that we undertake every December, so it is real-time data, our North Lancaster landfill will be out of space in 2036, 2037, and then it will fill up Beaverbrook faster, so 2039 is when South Glengarry will be out of our own landfill space. This is actually excellent. In the inception of South Glengarry, we undertook a solid waste master plan, and it forecasted to 2040, and the hope was that we would have landfill capacity to 2040. And with some of the recent diversion initiatives, we've actually seen those numbers creep back closer to 2040. So when I arrived in South Glengarry in 2021, I believe we were thinking 2037 we'd be out of capacity. So we have made gains, and we should the administration's hope is that we can continue to make gains in whatever way possible to expand that life for our residents. But 2040 was the original date, and anything we can do to hit 2040 or exceed is fantastic. When we close our landfills, North Lancaster has a closure cost of $855,000. Beaverbrook's closer to $1 million. These are the costs to actively close, and as we've talked about a bunch, we can front load those either through reserves or by doing some of the closure activities in advance. And then once a landfill closed, similar to Summerstown, we continue to pay for monitoring to meet the terms of our ECA. So it'll be 45 to 40. It'll be in the $45,000 in today's dollars to do that active monitoring at the beginning of shortly after closure. And we will likely still be monitoring Summerstown, unfortunately, at that time, which is wild to me that, 30, 40 years later, we're still monitoring something that we are not receiving great benefit from. We do a lot of the diversion initiatives here in South Glengarry. The recyclable waste, we have household hazardous waste, tires, electronics, major appliances, and batteries, and those are all done for free to our residents through the producers. So South Glengarry has contracts with the producers of those materials to dispose of them sustainably. So it may not necessarily be recycling, but they are taking away what can't be recycled is recycled, and the hazardous materials or things that can't be are disposed of in a sustainable manner. And that, again, is through some legislation through the province that those producers need to provide this service for the residents in Ontario, and then municipalities enter into agreements with people. Not well known, but South Glengarry does have subsidized composters. Their 300-liter earth machines are available at the township office for $60. So it's about that time of year. If anyone is interested, we are happy to sell you one. And if we run out, we continuously buy them. So they will be available. And that we hope to encourage composting within South Glengarry. And then in 2021, the council initiated a 2-bag limit. So we went from an 8-bag to a 2-bag limit, saw huge gains, and we now have bag tags for additional bags over that 2-bag limit, and we brought in unlimited recycling. The elephant on that slide is that we are no longer responsible for the Blue Bin program. So as of the beginning of this year, actually, under similar legislation to household hazardous and batteries and such, the province has mandated that the producers of packaging are responsible for the full life cycle of that material, which includes taking over the Blue Bin programs across Ontario. So municipalities came on board over the past 3 years, and by the end of this year, so by 2026, the producers will be fully responsible for the Blue Bin program across Ontario, but South Glengarry happened to transition at the beginning of this year, along with the other municipalities in SDNG. So South, North, Glengarry, Dundas, and Stormont are no longer responsible for the Blue Bin programs. They are completely the responsibility of the producers, and in our area, it is right here, you can see Mterra. So Mterra is responsible for our curbside collection, and it's Ontario Regulation 391/21, if anybody's interested, and it's called the Blue Box program. Through the regulation, the producers have to provide service at least every other week and a single-day collection at a residence. So it's not like you come 1 week or 1 day for paper and 1 day for, thank you, anything else. It's everything in 1 day at a minimum of every second week. And in this slide we included for the public who may be wondering, like, okay, you're not responsible for the recycling program, well, what happened to that money? That's an excellent question. So in 2024, the recycling program cost $870,000. We received some recycling revenue of $100,000. When this material went to market, it's what we got back through our agreement with our material handling facility, which at the time was the City of Cornwall. And we also received $290,000 back from the producers through the old Blue Box legislation. So it ended up costing the taxpayers $480,000 for weekly recycling. So then what happened to that in our 2025 budget? Keeping in mind that the budget was prepared before we knew our actuals from last year. So we had assumed $400,000, not $480,000. That $400,000 that we'd assumed, council offered a $100,000 levy reduction, which was fantastic. In layman's terms, like their tax dollars went down, or the amount that, I will let the mayor, should he wish to describe that later, explain a levy reduction. It's not my forte. Is it a reduction in taxes by $100,000?
I believe Councillor McInall can take credit for that because we were looking at near a, what are we at, 7 point something, and it got reduced to 6.5 overall, 4.5. So yes, it saved $100,000 to the taxpayer, which was approximately, say, 0.95%. So yeah, that's one councillor, if I can give credit on that one, so.
Thank you. Yep. No, that's a
And then
really-
the rest of council for agreeing, but it was Councillor McInall who brought up the point. We were going to put it into a reserve otherwise.
Yep, that's an important point. I think $150,000 went to the landfill reserve, and that's a savings account to pay for when we have to close those landfills. $100,000 went to capital roads and $50,000 towards the solid waste master plan. And that solid waste master plan, the hope is that it will look at our existing capacity and how we're doing things within our solid waste portfolio and provide us with a roadmap for the next 40 years. So the first roadmap went from 2000 to 2040. Hopefully we'll go from 2025 to whatever 40 years from now is. And this is an excellent time to undertake this project. It is approved through the budget, but just a pitch that since we have achieved most of the things that were in our original plan and we are looking at ways to extend past 2040 for our landfills, this is perfect. And we had a bonus $25,000 come in revenue from our final recycling grant, which was a surprise. And one of the questions at the open house that was asked is what happened to the other, I guess, $55,000. And my response was, I think you could assume that it went towards a capital road or bridge project within South Glengarry, because there was a massive investment in infrastructure again this year, which makes infrastructure services very happy. So we then talked to the public about what the program would look like, and this one is just saying that the clear bag programs are not new. They've been around for quite some time. We do see a diversion rate of 10%, kind of at the minimum when these are implemented related to recycling. If you mash it with inorganics program, people are seeing up to a 50% reduction in diversion, which is fantastic. There's a significant increase to worker safety because they can see what they're getting. If there's dead animals or sharps or glass, they don't have to reach in. And of course, you can still use garbage bins. So if you're worried about the privacy aspect, you drop it into a bin and it is shielded from everyone's viewing. And the cost is fairly minimal compared to other diversion programs that require, a massive outlay at the beginning or ongoing operational costs. And this one, the cost to the municipality is near zero, just promotion and education. And then we have looked at it, and the cost to the residents is about an increase in $15 a year to go from black bags to clear bags. Less if you can shop sales. So a reminder that we did we had a waste audit done. This is what goes into our garbage over different seasons. Roughly 11% was recycling. We didn't look at organics through this survey because it wasn't a program that South Glengarry offered, but a comparable municipality, it's a blind study, so I don't know who it was, but their organics were, if you can look at where this would have been the organics section of their waste, and I think that would be fairly comparable to South Glengarry. And off the record, but it's kind of on the record, looking at Cornwall's original numbers, I think they're seeing the same thing, that about that amount of their garbage is organic waste. I'm really excited to see Cornwall's diversion numbers once they get into their clear bag program, because I know it's a rocky start, but it really is working for them. This is from 10 years ago, a lot of dots showing clear bags across Ontario. It's like I said, it's not new when there have been many additions in the past 10 years, especially with the onlining of mandatory green bin programs with populations over, 40, 50,000, whatever that number was. A lot of those municipalities, like Cornwall, married green bins with clear bags just to make sure that what was supposed to go into those green bins went into those green bins. So they're a pretty synergistic program. And then at the end of our presentation, we just talked about privacy concerns, that it's really not intended to be, you're looking and you're going through people's garbage. It's a quick look, how many recyclables? Is it a lot? No, into the garbage. Is it all recycling? We really don't want it in our landfills. That we were proposing, and we continue to propose through the staff report, a single opaque bag in the middle of the clear bag, so if you wanted to put things that you don't want people to see, you could, and that bag would be kind of a grocery bag size, so anything private could go in there. We reminded people that confidential information, such as bills or financial information, really should be shredded. It really doesn't belong in our garbage, so it shouldn't be in that clear bag. It shouldn't be in that black bag. It should be out in that blue bag or your recycling bin, and then shred it up, or however you want to shred things. And that the use of cans would be absolutely absolutely fine. So that is a really quick overview of the presentation we provided to the public, just so it's on the public record what we told everyone. I'll give a super quick review of our public survey. So we did a ton of consultation for this project. We sent out a mailer to everyone in South Glengarry. We had 2 public open houses, one in the evening, one in the afternoon. We had an online public survey, and we answered a lot of questions by email and by phone. The open houses were really well attended. I think we had 60 people at each, which was amazing. Our survey was incredible. So that's our public outreach. The public survey was amazing. We had 785 anonymous responses. They were set up to be anonymous to encourage people to respond because if privacy is a concern with clear bags, and that's what we felt, it would probably be a concern with the survey. We just thought these were really interesting metrics that even though we sent out a mailer to everyone, which likely generated 1 or 2 responses a day, we really saw spikes when social media posts went out, so that social media is how we're getting engagement from people. I don't know, that's just a side comment that I think was kind of neat. So the big question that we had was, would your household have issues implementing a clear bag program? And 640 people said yes. So 640 people thought that their household would have issues with the clear bag program, and 145 said no, their household would not have issues. Does one response equal one household? Probably not. You're likely getting couples, but regardless, like, this is what it is, and it's probably not all couples or partners. The key concerns, there weren't any surprises in what came up, really. The privacy was a big one, cost and availability, practicality and durability, illegal dumping, effectiveness, and the impact of vulnerable groups. So the vulnerable groups would be people with disabilities or the elderly sector who may not want their waste to be seen because it may reveal something about their personal nature that they'd be uncomfortable with. The 2 things that I took from the survey, apart from the concerns that we were expecting to hear, was that people really didn't know that the township is no longer responsible for recycling. That was came through to me loud and clear. And also that there is a higher prevalence of distrust right now in local government, which was surprising to me. And that's, again, just a general comment, because I wasn't expecting to get those 2 messages quite so loud and clear. So in response to the key themes, I suppose, that came through the recycling program, we can't make an improvement to it as a township because it's no longer ours. So a lot of the comments that we're suggesting improvements to recycling, unfortunately, that is not something South Glengarry can do right now. In terms of privacy, the privacy bag or the can would be the solution to those, or the response to that concern, maybe not solution. In terms of cost, like I said, it's about $15 more a year, assuming that you're putting 2 bags to the curb every week. And in terms of availability, as Cornwall's program kind of gets rolling, you will see supply and demand even out in that area. And we would work, if the program went forward, with our local suppliers to make sure that they have supply for South Glengarry folks. Practicality and durability, the concern was with animals attacking clear bags. This is absolutely a thing. I put out a clear bag and had it destroyed by crows, so then I put it into a can and solved my own problem. So yes, that is a real concern in a rural area. Illegal dumping, that's that's like an emotional reaction. So people who are going to illegal dump, likely illegal dump. A lot of the dumping that we see in South Glengarry doesn't come from South Glengarry. So what we do here is not going to impact people bringing it in and making it our problem, unfortunately. Effectiveness, people doubt how effective this program is. I have some stats here. Markham saw a 10% diversion rate. Kawartha Lakes observed a 20% diversion rate. Both of those were pre-organics programs. Orillia, 50%, but that was within organics. And I think Cornwall is seeing a similar, high percentages, but again, with that organics program. The impact of vulnerable groups, so preserving that dignity of residents, it could be garbage cans. This township could subsidize garbage cans. There was a lot of, we have an existing medical exemption for our garbage limit program, so it could be kind of tied to that exemption in some way, shape, or form. And then this didn't come out as much in the survey, but more in person, but the impact to commercial farms not being able to use feed bags as your garbage bags, so not being able to reuse, and that absolutely would be a negative of the program, but I suppose administratively the response would be encouraging the farming community to advocate for recycling of their products also. Like there's a lot of lobbying available there, and we can, I'm sure we'll make strides in the next kind of 20 years and just having more sustainable packaging across the board. Yeah, so that if the program is so that's the preamble, that's the survey responses. So if council were to approve the program, what we're proposing is still the 2 bag limit of 2 clear bags, bag tags available to purchase, so no change on that front. 1 opaque grocery size bag in each clear bag for privacy issues, a soft launch of January of next year with a full launch of the first Monday in April, and then accept garbage bags with less than 10% recyclable materials. So if really quickly visually it looks like there's more than 10% recyclable materials, a sticker would get slapped on it and it would remain, and the resident could then sort out the recyclable materials and put it to the curb again the next week. So in a nutshell, that's the program, the outreach that we did, the response, and the proposal for council's consideration and deliberation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for going over it. I think it's obviously quite a good survey or uptake. I believe the previous high watermark is near 400, and before that was like 299. So that's quite the success. I'm sure Councilor Jaworski will mention that. Before going into the why, I just want to say thank you for doing this, because there was one comment that I read, and it kind of invoked me to think about something. So they said, and many of the comments were fairly, like they were in opposition, but mostly kind. But somebody said, "Don't you have anything better to do?" And I just wanted to talk to that one, because I don't think that one's fair, because I like that our council has explored a few ideas, because how are we ever going to look at things? So this is just system-wise, and this is one. And I think we want to encourage that, like where we have ideas, we want them to prosper, whether we agree with them or not. Once we get the whole suite of information, that's different. But like the ideas, I don't want to take, like this has not been a bad idea. It's been a good thing to review at the very least. So we bring our ideas, we see what sticks, what doesn't. Some of those things, there was some name calling in there, some pretty abusive name calling, and I'd like to think, and I often say when we go to other not councils, but conferences, there's the uncivility, and I've never thought I had to take that as a course, because in my experience, South Glengarry has been very positive. People have disagreed strongly, passionately, but politely. They have not been rude. This brought some of that, and I just want to remind people that we don't have to agree with each other, but we have to be neighbors. And you know, like if Martin doesn't like something I say, well, that's okay. Excuse me, Deputy Mayor Lang. I'll say Martin in this case just because it's more anecdotal. So like if we don't get along on one issue, it's not every issue, and I should still be willing. So we have to keep our civility, which most people did. The survey is great. Thank you to the people for the civil discussion for the most part. And I'd like to comment, because some people attribute it to just council and administration, that this was not just SG. If you saw in the info report, this is from the SDG Working Group for the Environment. So this is something that we tried first. However it goes, it'll get back to the other ones. But I don't mind that we're trying things first, because we were last to move off 8 bags of garbage, and the previous council moved to 2. And I thought that was as a 1980s kid, I like Captain Planet, you know, like save that plastic, ran it up the cans, be proud to clean up your land. So that leans where my heart is always. But this was very clear, the feedback. But I'd like to go to council for their thoughts, and I'll provide thoughts on the survey outside of saying thank you for administration for taking it. Thank you for our community for also coming and showing up to both things, and as well the survey quite highly. Councillor Bougie.
Thank you, and through Mr. Mayor, thank you, Ms. McDonald, for all the work you've done on this file. I mean, I was at one of the open houses, and it was very well attended, and you did a great job on dealing with a lot of the questions, some of them negative as well. So, but yeah, based on the survey, I mean, it can't be ignored. 82% of the residents had an issue with the clear bags. I thought we did a great job getting down to the 2 bag limit. I mean, we can continue to promote recycling, even though we might not have as much of that hands-on, but like programs like Recycle Coach are always a resource for people to use, and we can continue to kind of maybe do the composting initiatives that you talked about in the presentations. I am a little concerned if this is passed moving forward with staff time dealing with maybe complaints, calls, illegal dumpings, some of the things that were mentioned in the report. One question I have is in regards to private road pickup. So, as you know, and since the 2-bag limit, there's still private roads that have a pile of garbage there. And I was wondering if you guys had any solutions as to what you would do. I mean, if there's clear bags with recycling in it, if you tag it, we might not know who it belongs to. I have residents calling me now about that issue, and they end up picking up the garbage now. So with the clear bags, I'm thinking that's just going to get worse. So I don't know if you had any thoughts or comments on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, private roads are a fun beast across the board. With respect to garbage, our current contract with our collector describes what roads we go down full-time versus seasonally. We have administratively had to change some of those just as trucks get bigger and private lanes stay the same or get more grown in, or people build along the edges of them. Like our we can't get down. So when it becomes unpassable, we ask them to please, I'll bring it to the curb. Just as like, that doesn't answer your question, I know, but just some of the ongoing challenges with private roads are they're small and they're not always safe for us to traverse down. So we'll likely see more and more. It's mostly on the 2 and so service. So communal collection points along those 2 roads. We've given some thought to ways that we could potentially identify what is actually coming off the private road versus being dumped by seasonal campers versus being put out extra. So some thoughts, but nothing concrete to share with council. And I'm hoping some of that might come through the solid waste master plan, just to how, with a bit more research by someone who can dedicate their time to looking at how other municipalities deal with private roads. It's not just dumping it into a massive like bear box or like these unsightly piles, which we acknowledge are challenging, especially like the summer months are coming up, and the non-South Glengarry residents can be mean to those roads in terms of illegal dumping.
Okay, Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you taking the presentation tonight and bringing this forward. I mean, I will applaud staff's initiative on this and going, I think, for the right reasons. We're looking at, ways to save space in our landfills, and the day we have to start sending things to La Fleche, it's going to cost us more money. I wasn't in favor of this program from the get-go. It still hasn't. The exercise hasn't changed my mind, and I'm even firmer with my position than I was on day one. With just seeing the results, 82% of the people that took the time to go and answer the survey absolutely want nothing to do with it, and they're the people that pay the taxes. They're the people we answer to, and I have no interest in moving forward. I do take issue with the options available to us tonight, and I don't know what the best course of action would be if the will of council is to defeat this. Is it to defeat option A? Because if we're looking at this, in my opinion, and the ratepayers are saying no to clear garbage bags, I don't want to spend any more time revisiting it through the solid waste management master plan. I don't want to go with option B, and I don't want to go with option A. Are we best to defeat option A to keep ourselves? That's just a question I kind of put out there. I am kind of personally done with this conversation after tonight if it's defeated. So it was just kind of a directional from maybe from the clerk at this point.
Okay, and I think just to provide some perspective on option B, it might be because if there is will from the, or discussion at the solid waste management master plan to do organics, the clear bag might make sense then. So I think we're not going to do it now. It's just like if we have organics, then it might make sense to do it because otherwise you'd hide it, but maybe you're completely gone. Okay, so in that case, we'll give a moment of thought to that. I'll move on to another comment so we can think about it, but we'll come back and address that particular portion. We'll go Deputy Mayor Lang and then Councillor Jaworski.
I think Councillor Jaworski wants to go last. Thank you, staff. Appreciate it. I think it was well done, and amazed at the 785 plus. Not saying that the 110 that came to the open houses didn't put a comment in, but some of them may not have because they were here. So that I think it's well over. It's likely 800 or higher, which is amazing to get that much response for anything. And to the people who were at the, and this is just to tag on to the mayor's comments, people who were at the open houses, I thank them for coming out, and most of them, some were passionate, but there was a few bullies. And I agree with the mayor. I don't think that's the way we are in South Glengarry. I didn't like it very much. It was uncomfortable. I don't like the fact they were trying to bully us, trying to bully staff, and you know, if it was just them at the open houses, I would be voting in favor. Just, you know, because I don't like being bullied. But anyway, the majority of the people were very good, so appreciated them coming out, appreciated them putting the comments in. So I was in favor, but as we told the people at the open houses, our mind was not made up ahead of time, and it wasn't. I think if we were to go against 80-some% of our residents saying they don't want it, then we would be showing that we had already decided ahead of time, and we hadn't. We wanted to see what the public wanted, and we wanted to listen to them. So they've spoken that they don't want it, and I'm kind of with Councillor McDonnell. I don't mind if it's mentioned in the master plan, but I don't want to have to debate it again, at least not in this term of council. I think it's for further down the road, because it looks like it's going to be defeated, because I've got 2 councillors across the table that are against it, and I'm going to go with them. So anyway, much appreciated. I think it is something that would have been worthwhile, and I think it's great that our staff is trying to find ways to save our taxpayers' money, which is what we were trying to do. Throughout the whole thing, I did find that most people were recycling. There was a couple of people that kind of said, oh, no, I don't bother, you know, but most people are recycling, and all we were trying to do with this is to get them to do a little bit more. So let's continue to encourage them. I think maybe it will help this, you know, just having all this discussion. I think at our household, we're often, and I was standing at the garbage the other day with a package, and I wasn't sure if it was recyclable or not. And I think in the past, what I've done in those instances, we put it in the garbage then. But I think from now on, I'm going to put it in the recycling. If we're not sure, I say put it in recycling. And, you know, they'll let us know if we're putting too much stuff in that they don't like, but either way, it's not going to end up in our landfill that way. So I think we have to, you know, try to maybe educate a little more of what is recycling, but if you look at the website that they have there, there's very little that they say they don't take. Books, toys, pots and pans, hazardous waste, you know, but pretty much everything else looks like it will go. So I encourage people to recycle as much as they can, and maybe we'll get to the same place without pushing the clear bags on them.
Thank you. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. I wasn't trying to go last, but I'll try not to repeat too much what's already been said, but again, like, thank you to staff for doing this. I mean, I definitely supported doing this, and I think staff did an excellent job. I mean, again, like, you can't deny the results, like double any other consultation we've ever had. So as someone who's often like, you know, pounding the drum of let's do more consultation, like, this is fantastic. This is I'm so happy about this, and I'm hoping that we can use this as a model for other things, because I would love to have this level of engagement on so many things, and I might mention more a bit on this a bit later, but just that point of like mistrust of local government, like I'd like to think that this is an avenue that helps decrease that by having consultation and by, you know, using that feedback and informing our decisions. So, so yeah, I was surprised by how many folks responded to the surveys. I mean, again, like if I speak personally, Stephanie, like I don't have an issue with clearbacks. I would have no issue with it. And certainly stepping back as a, you know, counselor and having a financial responsibility, and always hearing residents say they want to know how we can help, you know, save them money or slow the increase of taxes. Like, I definitely think that clear bags would yield like that 10% in extension of the life of our landfills, which definitely has a value. But I was, yeah, very surprised by the results and just how forceful people were with being against the idea. And I did read, like, I mean, I read through them all, and I did get the sense that lots of folks who were very much against it didn't necessarily, they didn't think that it was like they understood why, and they didn't necessarily take, issue with that, but they didn't want it. They don't want it. And so as someone, again, who bangs the drum of consultation, I feel like it would be disingenuous of me to say, let's do consultation and then not listen to what people say. But moving forward, like, I think the survey, how do we build a bridge of trying to rebuild or counteract the lack of trust in local government? I'm not quite sure where that, I have guesses of where that's coming from, but how we can work against that, how to work on education in terms of, I know it's not our responsibility anymore, but we're going to pay for it regardless if it's not done well, so how we can better support our residents to understand. But also, and this is where the master plan comes in, there are other things we could be doing. People are talking about like different agricultural waste streams. I'm not picking on that one specifically, but I had a conversation with someone recently about we brought so many loads of bale wrap and we only have so many cows. Like, can you imagine how much bale wrap goes to the landfill? Like, why don't you guys do something about that first? And maybe that is something we need to be doing about first. So, and that would come probably through the solid waste master plan. In terms of like that option B, like, I think we have to remember that this master plan is not just for us. Like, we're still using the master plan from 2012. And so it lives through many councils. And I think if this council says, well, no, you're not allowed to talk about this one option, that's really hindering future councils, this as a resource. So I don't think we can say it can't be. I wouldn't support saying it can't be in there. It may be probably more appropriate that it's something for a future council. But also, like, lots of people talked about organics. I don't know if people really understood that an organics program would cost probably $500,000 to $1 million, but maybe they would. But I have a hard time understanding how we could implement that without either eliminating a garbage bag or implementing clear bags. So I think it has to be part of the conversation. And when our landfills are full in 10 years, the rules aren't going to be ours anymore. So who knows what rules are going to be put on us, and we might need to be helping some of our residents, certain businesses understand or find other options on what to do with certain waste streams before that comes. The last thing I wanted to mention is in terms of, again, moving forward, and maybe this is a solid waste master for the master plan type conversation, but the bag tags and having additional waste, maybe, one option is if you need additional bags or additional tags, and I'm putting medical issues aside, is that rather than sell tags, that we sell like a clear bag that's branded South Glengarry, and that's what folks have to use if they're going above like the bag limit that's in place today. Again, because I think the last thing we want to do is for folks who are putting lots more garbage to, we don't want that to be, mostly problematic waste that's going to our landfills. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I think that was all my points. So thank you.
All right, and since it's a big issue, if you'll allow me the moment to speak to my thought process too. So similar to Councillor Jaworski, probably on the personal level, I am fully in favor of it. But as a councillor, you have to take some opinion. So I went from strongly in favor up to the survey result, and then probably sitting on the fence where I would teeter from slightly against and slightly for. I think I probably would end up as a member of council as slightly for. But that's not the way council's going. But the survey did move me, so like in that case, people may say, Lachlan, you didn't listen to your community, and I would say, yes, I did, it just didn't sway me fully on the 82% because my lived experience, like everything up until that point was so strongly in favor of it. To move me so strongly the other way was quite impressive because that survey came back and I was surprised, but they do think of your people, not for your people, and I think when we're thinking of, that's the heavy movement towards really fence sitter on the particular subject. So whatever way council goes, I'm happy to go with it. why I felt that way. Well, 10% savings, the money side of me, but when you look at our costs, that might be, $200,000 savings over. So it's not a massive amount, but it's still, probably a fiscal conservative, I would say this is a great way how to save money long term. Maybe not, Councillor Jaworski will often use the term juice worth the squeeze, and maybe clear bags don't provide that, and came through the survey. Another thing I thought was, as much as there were some angry, or we'll say, well, I think some angry is probably the right word with some of them, but also some strong opinions in addition to very few angry people. When people were leaving, there were more than 1.5 to 2 times. So like for every person who was taking something quietly, they'd leave and say, we support this. So I was like, okay, the quiet majority. So that's when the survey came. I was like, okay, this is a lot different than I expected. So all these things kind of started me so far and strongly in favor, and the survey moved me off that position quite substantially. And I did contact the city of Cornwall, because in that survey there were mentions of how a disaster it is there, and normally disasters are known by council. So I did contact all 11 of them, and five or six got back, and they were all very positive. One even mentioned that they'd stake their election campaign on a clear bag thing. Now that came with compost, but that's something that I'm happy for this, because like it made me think. I don't remember if it was Councillor McDonnell or perhaps former Mayor Warden who said to me, like, organics is the next step, and I was fully opposed to that, because I think it's, like, in a rural environment, we should be able to, like, throw it out most part, but, like, say our Glen Walters or Lancasters or Williamstowns might have with their smaller lots, but now I'm more open to that idea. So I'm always willing to move off my position, and so if that's something that comes through this waste management master plan, like this survey and the feedback has moved me more off of that position too. So we are listening. I think we probably, depending whether you started with a no, you moved even more no based on the survey results. If you start on a yes, maybe, you moved off those too, because this survey was quite clear to us, as much as administration has to direct, like, this is we're not taking the best for the asset, and that is your role, and our role is to deal with the community that way. So I think I've not rambled. I've shared enough of my stance. Now to come back to the point specifically that Councillor McDonnell brought up regarding not really enjoying option B, revisited the viability of a clear bag program. So in this case, I would kind of probably look to Councillor Bougie, because I feel, or Councillor Lang, because I feel you said no, like you don't want to revisit clear bags regardless. You were saying you kind of viewed it that way. You had mentioned, like, if there was a composting that came out of this, you'd be open to the conversation. I'm probably on that one. So, Councillor Bougie, I'm curious as to your thoughts.
I would have to be leaning towards Councillor McDonnell with no clear bags.
So that's regardless of, like, future things, like just eliminate the whole option.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we would have to rewrite an option. Is that possible, or how would we procedurally do that, Ms.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd recommend that you simply defeat option A. So select option A when reading your resolution, and if any member of council who's not in favor, you vote against. Just to the point, I can't recall who made it, there's, talking about not wanting to shut it down permanently. Do keep in mind there's always the option for future councils to bring a motion to reconsider and bring this back to the table. So defeating it tonight doesn't necessarily defeat it forever, if that was a concern. But just procedurally, if the will of council this evening is to proceed with shutting down the discussion for now, I would recommend defeating option A.
Okay, then we'll take that course. Or Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess before I look like somebody who throws batteries in the landfill and pour my used oil on the laneway or something like that. The point I have here is I think it's been made clear that the majority does not want clear bags. I see the opinion that maybe the clear bags could go hand in hand with a recycling program or a composting program, but I personally don't think it could, just because I think for the municipality that we operate in, I don't think there's an opportunity for like a run-of-the-mill composting program. I think you would have to run a composting program separate from the rural areas and focus it just on your hamlets. So if that is something that you are, and it's something I think we should explore, for if you ran a pilot in Glen Walter or in Lancaster or in any one of our hamlets. You run with one and see, and it would have to be probably municipally owned and operated. And it would be very expensive and very cumbersome, but I think there's a lot of people in those areas that would appreciate that service. This, I see absolutely no real appetite in bringing it forward as far as a service. It seems to be, I don't know if it's, people aren't interested in it, so I don't want to see any time wasted on it. I'd rather see our time focused on something that's going to be productive, like looking at investing in some kind of a composting program that would reap yield or juice worth squeezing, I guess.
And in that regard, just because it's something not related to that, but I thought of it while you were saying it, because in some of the conversations, incineration was a thought. That's probably a City of Ottawa, because it is a probably funded by the province or the federal government, or private business in that case. If there's ever any support there, maybe we can send, like, if there's any traction administration sees, like, I think, I can't speak for all of us, but we could send a support resolution, or, because like they might say, hey, we can take your garbage, and maybe, you know, it might be less expensive to start saving some money to pay for like a small portion of that capital. I don't know what that would look like, but just something to keep in mind, because incineration was talked about quite a few times. Anyhow, so option A is to proceed. We'll defeat that. So then the clear bags will be put to rest for the 2022 to 2026 council term. As our clerk said, that doesn't stop 2027 to 2032. Oh, I can't even do it. Anyway, 2027 to 2030, sorry. I used to do math, now I don't. All to say, it will be put to rest for this term of council. So I will read that again, option A, and then we'll take the vote. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-54 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry direct administration to, so we're going with option A, proceed with implementing a clear bag program for curbside collection with a soft launch date of January 1st, 2026, and a full launch date of April 6th, 2026. All those in favor? All those opposed? Defeated. Thank you for your time. As mentioned, item 8B was removed from the agenda, so we'll move to 8C, Charland Recreation Center Partnership Agreements. Ms. Harbers, and it is moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025... Oh, okay. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-56 be received and that the Corporation of the Township of South Glengarry enter into a partnership with the Junior B Glengarry Brigade, the Charland Minor Hockey Association, and the Charland Skating Club, and furthermore, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all relevant documents. Ms. Harbers?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Administration brought forward the key information report at the last meeting to receive comments regarding the draft partnership agreements that administration put together. So you'll see attached are the partnership agreements with each organization, which is basically for the advertisements at the arena here. You'll see that one change that was noted that we discussed at that council discussed at the last meeting is with regards to arena boards that are not sold by a certain date can go to a different organization. So I've included that change here, and it will be the first day of rentals that if a board ad is not sold by, then it can go to a different organization. We just chose that date just so that, in hopes by the end of September that those ads could be then filled. So unless council has any questions, we're hoping that we can finalize these agreements and have them signed so that the organizations can get moving on obtaining their ads. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Ms. Harbers, for this. And I'm sorry if I missed this in reading through the agreements, but one thing that I had raised at the last meeting and one thing that two of the user groups had come to me since to ask about again was about how the different, like how the locations of the boards are determined, as in like who gets what spot, because some spots are apparently viewed more favorably than others. And I know that way back when this was originally just like many years ago, there was a map that was put out at one point, but I don't know yeah, if you could just refresh on where that stands, please.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. There was originally a map when we brought this forward at the beginning, just to kind of show council where those ads were going to be, because at the time we were redoing all of the boards. So at that time, we wanted the contractor to install the proper boards in certain locations for advertisement. But the locations at this point now are basically with administration, because I don't know that we'll get into having different costs for different ads. I think the same cost for each ad will remain at this point. So right now, I know that Junior B, they have given up 16 full-size board ads, and they are working on what 16 companies will be giving up their ads. And from there, we'll work towards which ads will then be taken on by the skating club and minor hockey. So at this point, it's with administration working on what ad space is becoming available and what will be given over to those two organizations.
Okay, thank you.
All right, all those in favor? Carried. Moving to bylaws, 2025 budget and tax rates. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-57 be received and that bylaw 2025-26, being a bylaw to adopt the tax rates and final taxation installment and due dates for the year 2025, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 26th day of May, 2025. Ms. MacDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So this evening, this is sort of just to finalize our 2025 budget, which we agreed to in principle back in December. So at this point, the budget represents a 5.47% increase to the township portion of the tax bill, and blended with the county's rates of 4.59, so approximately $65 on our part of the tax bill. So this bylaw this evening will set our tax rate and allow us to print our tax bills in July and hopefully deliver them.
All right. If you'll allow me, it's always interesting to see the tax dollars and to who pays them. So if you look at residential properties, they pay 9.1 million. Farm properties pay 1.2 million. Commercial pays 700,000, and as the next highest, pipelines is 487,000. So it's quite residential, the taxation. And is that likely the same across some STG, you imagine? Don't know. That's an unfair question. Unfair question. All right. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Lang?
Just a reminder that the farmers are also included in the residential.
That is fair. There are, Deputy Mayor Lang's property has 2 residences and as well as farmland as well.
Just so people are aware, the farmers pay the same as everybody else on their house, and I believe it's 1 acre.
Yes.
And then the farmland itself is taxed at a lower rate.
Yes, no,
So,
I was
just
not
so they
trying to
don't
be.
think that they're getting by in their house and not paying the same as everybody else.
Yeah, no, that's, I don't know if it's the best comment to make, but I had a cheeky argument with a farm friend, and he said, look how much taxes I pay in just gross, right? So that's always going to be more. And I was like, well, look at that great per acre rate. But those are both unfair arguments. But it's fair to say that's a good point to make. Any further comments? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Oh, yeah, yes. I think I might have a question after the meeting. With the consent agenda, that's the next thing coming up. Would council, just because it was taken off the report, but I wanted to highlight it, could we go to page 64 on the agenda? I just wanted to highlight something that I particularly enjoyed, and it's something that you, just the way the staff report was read, the financial portion. Sorry to, I should have maybe brought this up. So page 64 is what I'm looking for. The financial component. Right there, budget implications. So this is something that I've quietly been asking for, and I do thank administration, and I probably through our CAO, where we have the cost, the budget, the surplus, future operating, and future replacement, because it clearly says, you know, we add one vehicle, but there's also an operational thing to it. I know that's not what we got today, but I just wanted to highlight that before we moved on. I think that's the most transparent explanation I've seen in several municipalities. So thank you for getting that pushed through, and thank you for also putting that into the report to the author. So consent agenda. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. Confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Nope. Boards and committees, yes. I believe there was Deputy Mayor Lang on the counties as the chair and warden. Please present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did have a county council meeting last week, I guess. I think it was on Tuesday. Just a couple of highlights. Installing 2 box culverts. And a note that these were previously corrugated culverts. Counties are, whenever possible, switching to box culverts. And I think in our township, if I remember the bridge report, we have some box culverts that are 80+ years old. I think just the longevity of them, it's kind of nice to see something you don't have to touch for quite a while. So they're replacing 2 culverts, and they prepaid or pre-bought the box culverts, but $441,000 to get both culverts installed. One is on the Highway 43, and the other one is Highway 12, I believe. Just go down. SD&G reads, but I'm going to leave that for the mayor. Maybe you could speak a bit on that after I get finished, because you're more on the library board, and anyway, they're highlighting their author for the year. The budget dates for this year have been set. We're going to go early, same as our own township, so it'll be the same week. Will be December 2nd, I believe. Anyway, the first part of the same week that so the mayor and I will have multiple days of budget that week. What else was consulting services? We gave approval to staff to do a little research, and we're going to get a little help with consulting, government relations, this sort of thing. A lot of townships are doing it now. I think North Glengarry did some. I know South Stormont's doing it quite regularly. And maybe having a little more luck, just because everybody's asking for the same thing. We all need infrastructure money. So we're going to start working with a firm. We have not decided who yet, but council gave approval to start the process. So that's something interesting, and maybe something we should talk about at this table at some point. See if there was anything else. Nothing else that I noticed on there. I will just, for 2 minutes, just speak to, if I can find it here. We had Queen's Park Days in Toronto for the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. That was, we had our own meeting on the 12th, and then on the 13th we started out the day with breakfast at 7 o'clock and a meeting with MPPs and ministers. Quite a few showed up. It was very good, very informal. You could stand around and have a little chat with them and get a chance to know some of them. And then during the day we had quite a few ministers' meetings. And 3 things that we were kind of pushing, that's kind of the wrong word, but advocating for. And just give you the 3 points. Strengthening economic resilience in the face of tariffs and global uncertainty, streamlining investment in municipal infrastructure, and accelerating housing development. And those 2 could almost go together, because a lot of the housing development could be accelerated a little bit if we could have a little more provincial money into our infrastructure, especially water and wastewater. So some of the ministers that we met with during the day, Rob Flack, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Vic Fedeli, Minister of Economic Development, David Piccini, Minister of Labor and Immigration, Kinga Surma, Minister of Infrastructure, Peter Bethlentfully, Minister of Finance, Kevin Holland, Minister of Forestry, Lisa Thompson, Rural Affairs, Leah Lumsden, Minister of Sport, Jill Dunlop, Minister of Emergency Preparedness, and obviously we met with our Minister, Nolan Quinn, Minister of Colleges, Universities, Research and Excellence. Very positive meetings, very good. We weren't there, we were there kind of as an overarching all of Eastern Ontario, just to start the conversation. And we asked them too, we said, what if there's anything that you know, that you guys need that we could help with as a lobby group and as a, all of Eastern Ontario, what could we do to help you? Because we said, obviously, AMO's coming up in the late summer there, and we're going to be, most municipalities will be there asking for specifics at that time. And I think most are going to be looking for infrastructure money, but anyway, and just a note that Minister Quinn was nice enough to, during question period, we got to watch some of question period to get up and acknowledge Maureen Adams, CAO, and myself, and appreciate him doing that. That's it for me. So if you had anything you could add to about the library board.
I appreciate that you took a moment to talk, because I went and found it quickly. So it's Monday, October 6th, 2025, and it will be in, I believe it's Avonmore at South Stormont Place. It's Nita Pross who's been chosen this year as the author. She has a Maid series, I believe, or sorry, Molly the Maid series. It's The Maid, The Mystery Guest, and her newest one, The Maid's Secret, which was just released last month. Always well received. You can get VIP access if you get a ticket. Talk to the person one-on-one, and then they do a great job setting up the venue. I encourage everyone to go. I went once, and then another time we had a council meeting, so I stayed here. But this year it doesn't hit the same date, so I will be going if anybody wants to carpool. That goes out to the community. You can find me too. I have 4 seats. Okay, I believe that was all for boards and committees. Then moving to confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-27, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council on this 26th day of May 2025. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 7:47 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Have a good evening, everyone.